So let's get started.
Yes. All right.
So today's meeting will be about three agendas. So the first thing is challenges in today's job market. They involve both national and domestic, followed by a specific session for the international students, which is finding important students, followed back by standing out of the crowd. How can you make yourself stand out in the rest of the crowd that is challenging in job market?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So overall, not just for international students, right, but for all students right now, a lot of the challenges that we're facing in the job market is we got to pivot, right? We got some changes happening. The biggest pivot, the biggest change, right, is the impact and the incorporation of AI, right? Automation, technology is more involved in this process than we've ever had it before. Okay. We also have some current external factors, which we'll talk more about in depth. Right. And then there's this new shift back into healthy competition, if you will. There were several generations in which, I don't know if you remember the phrase, everybody gets a trophy, right? So what we're moving back into is really incorporating a new sense of competition and learning what that means and how to actually stand out. Okay, so that is kind of a newer trend. We're going back into that trend here in today's market. All right. So why? Automation, right? So even some of the most simplistic, basic customer service jobs, areas and industries before that weren't necessarily as heavily involved with technology are now finding themselves in that world and furloughed communities. Okay. A lot of them have adopted, especially after COVID, the opportunity for hybrid and remote work, right? So love it or hate it, a lot of businesses realized, hey, a lot of this work can actually be done remote and not necessarily have to be a front-facing work model. Okay. And then on top of it, as we said, that healthy competition piece. If any of you have spent time with our office or in relationship with a lot of the teams that we're working with, you might have heard NACE and the NACE competencies. How many of you are familiar with NACE competencies? No? Okay. So NACE competencies are what the National Association of College Employers states are essentially the core skills that every employer across industries need to have. There's 8 of them. Okay. The baselines: teamwork, leadership, technology, critical thinking, communication. Okay. And then technology, right? So a lot of that plays into, again, some of the skills that we want you to really highlight, especially as strengths as international students, right? Because as you see, the biggest skills that we find in demand across industries, adaptability, right? Adaptability is part of your existence, being able to go from one place to another place and figure out how to fit in and make it successful, right? Critical thinking. I would say that's probably, outside of being adaptable, the number one thing that I hear from employers on a regular basis. We got problems to solve. We got big problems, small problems, and problems in between. And we need people who are coming with solutions, okay? Not just regurgitating information, not just giving me basic work and not just basic effort. We need people who are out here looking to make actual change and innovation. Okay? And then those who are comfortable with technology. We know it's not going anywhere, but how do we make it impactful? How do we make a difference? And how do we make sure that we kind of find our place to work with it? Okay? Now, the impact of AI, right? Automation is replacing a lot of routine jobs. So for some industries, things are going to start being phased out, right? And for some of these basic types of work and skills, it makes sense to let AI and automation take over. However, depending on what some of these changes and shifts are going to look like, right, it will, as we know, develop new opportunities for work, okay? So there is kind of this push-pull balance of some things will go, but some things will grow. The other external forces, things outside of our control, right, are going to be our political system, current system as a whole. We know that is having a trickle-down effect. Okay. However, at the end of the day, we are still a global economy, no matter who's in charge and what's currently happening. Okay. We do not work in a vacuum. We cannot exist in a vacuum. Okay. Yes, we recognize that currently what is happening will have impacts on visa duration. We know that the vetting process, right, the interview process is shifting. We know that how that looks from an academic standpoint, it's having some shifts and changes, and our lovely friend Jared will talk more about that shortly, right? But ideally, remote work and redefining what that looks like in terms of, excuse me, opportunities, what's available, whether or not you have to be here in person, or whether or not there's going to be opportunities for you to still do the same work in other locations, right? These are going to have to be personal choices that you should be really trying to spend time and reflect. From a coaching standpoint, do I love that you're all here? Yes, I want all to be here. And I want you to get every opportunity that you can gain from your time here in the US. However, from a human standpoint, I need you to recognize that this may not be your end zone, right? May not be where you end up, and that's okay, right? So from a human standpoint, and I will tell you, safety first, okay? If for whatever reason you don't feel safe, you don't feel supported, that needs to be taken into consideration, right? Are your basic needs being met? Can you feed yourself? Do you have a roof over your head? All the things that you need to just survive. Are those being met? Okay? On top of that, right? Do we see a path of growth and opportunity? Okay? These are things that we tell all of our students that are from here now. Okay? This is just that we want to make sure that success starts with survival, safety, foundation. Okay? And then on top of being able to adapt to this ever-changing situation, right, is keep yourself in a mindset of lifelong learning and leveraging the skills and the tools that you know how to use. Okay? Biggest thing for lifelong learning, and one of those things from a coaching standpoint, is don't just learn and get really good at one thing. Right? So even though you're all getting really good at your majors and learning those specific niche things that you want to know, don't just kind of pigeonhole yourself into one thing that you're good at, okay? Right now, one of the biggest trends in industry overall is we're learning how to cross-section skills, right? And with one of the most beautiful statements that I shared with us at one of our meetings the other day was that even engineering students need to have customer service skills, right? You wouldn't necessarily put the two together, however, foundationally, right? The people that you're doing the engineering work for, you have to be doing on top of just create the thing for them. Okay, so this cross learning, this cross skills development is really the undertone of what we're doing. Okay, now, in general, with all the things that we have happening, right? Entry level positions are becoming much more limited, right? Those are really kind of starting to stay more in those customer service, fast food, retail, sales types of industries. We are really looking for competition, like we said, okay? So making sure that you are getting industry-related experience early is part of what's going to help set you apart, okay? A lot of our domestic student counterparts telling them that, hey, we need you to get an internship, we need you to get some sort of industry experience as part of your time here. Some of them just think that's a foreign concept. Well, why? I got a degree, I should be able to get a job. From an employer standpoint, I need you to prove that you can do the thing you learned, right? And so this is where, as the international population, where you can kind of stand out and shine, because a lot of them already come with steps already in industry, experiences already tied to industry. That's where you start to kind of highlight, like, hey, they may not have any, but I already have, right? Here's a strength that I come with already, is I already have some industry insight. I already have kind of some experience doing the thing you might need it. Okay? Yes, there is uncertainty, right? And Jared will again talk more in his lane. I'm sick in my lane, right? But even within that uncertainty, there are still jobs. There are still employers. There's still money to pay you. Okay? So keeping a positive mindset. This is a huge thing I tell all students, no matter how bleak, how stressful, how scary it looks, we can get through it. And there will be things to do. There will have opportunities available for you. We just might have to get creative in where we find it and how we. Okay. All right. Another big thing to take into consideration. Most of the job opportunities that are going to be promoted are not always going to be on a job board. Okay, especially when we are in specialized niche professions and industries. Okay, it doesn't make sense to put a very specialized opportunity out on Google. Because then you're gonna have a whole bunch of people applying that don't actually meet those requirements and can't actually do that skill set, right? So that's where it pays to really know people who are already doing the thing that you want to do and making friends with them. Getting a connection to that community. Okay? So baseline before you leave here, find at least one mentor. Somebody who's doing the thing you want to do or involved in that industry. Okay. Understand your strengths and weaknesses. Now, strengths may be a little bit easier, right? But sometimes we don't like talking about our weaknesses. Doesn't necessarily feel good, right? And I know sometimes feeling like an outsider, why do I want to bring one more thing that may not make me feel like I'm doing great? From an employment standpoint, think of it as how can I continue to train you to be better? That's really what I want to know about. What are you still need to learn? What are you still developing? And how can I help support you in that continued level of learning? Right? Because from that standpoint, lifelong learning. You're not an expert, even when you become an expert. There's still more for you to learn, there's still more for you to do. Okay? And then the transferable skills. So go back to those NACE competencies. When you learn a basic skill, it doesn't just leave you, right? When you learn customer service skills and then you go into that grown-up job, you stop using customer service skills. No, you start with how are you staying? How's it going, friends? You have anything you need? Like, oh, little anything, right? Those things we just move with us. Okay, I call them portable skills, if you will. Okay, what they look like, how we use them, what we call them may be different depending on the environment, but they're still the skills that we have. Okay, so highlight those things. It's uncomfortable a lot of times for us to brag about how awesome we are. But this time, this climate, these current unstable, uncertain situations, I need you to be the most comfortable bragging about how awesome you are, because that's going to be that standout. That's how you, in a crowd full of talent and skill, say, hey, I am your person, and here's why. Here's the value I bring. Okay? Now, how do we gain experience? Well, ODU tries very best to provide opportunities for you to get on-campus jobs, right? So how many of you have a GA position or on-campus position? Great. If you don't have one, go to your office. We'd be happy to. Okay? Volunteering. Now, I know we all want to get paid, and I would love to make sure all of you get paid. At the end of the day, that's my hope for you, is that we get you all these jobs, right? But getting your foot in the door through volunteering is probably the quickest, easiest way to start making those moves. It's also a great way for you to feel out whether or not this even is something you want to continue to do. Okay? You might come here and say, you know, engineering is my chill, I love it. You start taking some classes and some calc and some math, and you're like, wait a minute, I don't love it. Okay? Go hang out in some spaces. Go to the maker space. Go meet some people who are engineering. Feel it out. If it still doesn't fit, then feel like, hey, this is where I'm it's okay to pivot and change. But the sooner you learn that, better off you'll be, right? It's also more cost effective for you to figure out whether or not you need to make any adjustments or pivots early on. And by the time that graduation deadline is coming up, right? Because pivoting, especially with the deadlines and the paperwork and what days are you tied to it? Is your OPT, CPT, and all that stuff done? There's some limitations with pivot, right? So the earlier you can make some of these choices, the better. Right? So volunteer, get out there, figure it out, right? And then experiential learning, as you said, it is going to be tied to your study. If the major you have decided to choose from does not already have an experiential learning opportunity built in, please seek out how we can include one, right? That is one of those gatekeeper pieces for employment. Employers want to see some sort of internship experience, okay? Some sort of apply what you know experience. Okay. Again, competition, not just in competition with our domestic students, you are also in competition with AI. However, the current benefit is we still hire humans, not robots game. Okay? So we also have a chance. Keeping in mind that while some industries' titles will still reign glorious, we still have those whose titles will matter. Ideally, keep in mind the problems being solved. So if you have a solution to a current problem in your industry, bring it forward. Okay? That's also one of the ways for you to stand out. Okay? All right. So we're talking about, again, making sure that you stand out in the crowd. One of the benefits being international students, one of those areas of strength, right? You come with a different level of cultural awareness than a lot of our domestic students, right? Most of you have a level of worldview exposure that most of these students don't, right? And in a global market, that's an important skill to have, okay? Please leverage your multilingual abilities, whether it's computer language or conversational, okay? And then again, hammer home on your adaptability. I talk to employers all day, every year, every career fair, every informational statement situation you have, whatever. What do you want from the people you want to hire? And adaptability and critical thinking are typically the number 2 responses we get of what am I doing? Okay? Because your life is built on being adaptable. Showcase that and leverage that as a strength. Okay? Now, most of you, especially the majors in the STEM field that you are a part of, right? You are part of this history-making AI technology experience, right? So leverage the fact that you're the people who are bringing the innovation. Hey, I'm here to solve this problem using this thing. I developed this app, this tool, this thing that you need. And here's why I need it. Here's why I'm the person you need to hire because I'm the one who created it. Okay? And then confidence matters. Okay? You can be the most skilled person ever, but if you don't have the confidence to go out there and sell how awesome you are, I don't know how else. They won't know how to speak. Right? So, if your end goal is to impact change, to make a difference, not just for yourself, but for the global world, don't be shy. Okay? Be bold, be brave, be loud, be confident. Okay? And then tell me about yourself. I tell literally every student I work with, this is the question you will be asked from here on out in every format possible. Whether it's your cover letter, your resume, your LinkedIn bio, meeting somebody at a fair or an event, when you're presenting at a conference, what they want to know is tell me about you. Now, do I want to know every little detail about you? No, but I want to know how you define yourself as a professional. What do you see as important, valuable information to share with me at this current stage of your life? Okay? And be comfortable talking about it. So, make sure you prepare an introduction. And if you make an connection, hi, I'm good. Here's my data, study, my platform. Here's what I help you do with it. Here's how I help to make a connection. Still needs to feel natural and genuine and connect. But I have to be able to know who you are and how you're self-defining what's important that and how that connects well. Okay. All right. This will be you, my friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. So, hi everyone. Hope it's going well so far. I know I recognize several of you. Others of you I don't think I've met before. Not sure who's international and who's not, but I'm Jared Sykes, of course. I'm one of the international student advisors in the visa office. Just as a reminder, especially for our newer students, of course, visa, we help you out with maintaining your status, make sure you're registering for the classes that you need to and following all the guidelines. And of course, more relevant to this presentation and the job market and everything, we help out with you all getting your work authorizations, whether that's CPT or OPT that you need in order to actually get the job that you want or the internship that you want. Additionally, if I don't think there's any J1s here, but for J1s and like academic training, things like that. So
Yeah, so what I'm going to focus on is some of the challenges facing international students right now. We're going to be thinking about some of the current climate, some of like the challenges, extra challenges you have to face. So domestic students, of course, can just apply for a job and they're citizens. But, you all have to get the work authorization before you can accept the job. Again, and a lot of you, at least for the F1s and J1s, of course, finding jobs that relate to your major as part of your visa status for your OPT and your academic training and your CPT. The work that you do has to be related to your major, and you have to justify to us as the visa office, your designated school officials who monitor and maintain your F1 status. You have to justify to us that it is related to your major so that we can justify to the Department of Homeland Security when we go to report your because they'll ask, especially once you go to apply for an OPT, they're going to ask, well, how is this job related? Or whatever major you are. Sometimes it does require a little bit of extra effort. Other times it's like obvious, like software developer, computer science, not many much that. Other times it's always there. We'll also go over OPT requirements, how to apply for that, what you got to do to maintain your OPT. And then we'll also be talking about options other than OPT. There's a non-F1 third party navigation, or if you can exit your F1 status, how you can build apply what you learned out in either different steps or somewhere else abroad, anything like that. Also mention a little bit on specific resources at ODU and other resources online available to really navigate not only the trouble and the complications that is just the job market and applying for jobs and advertising and branding yourself like he hinted to, but also what you. So, getting into the first part. So some of the specific challenges that are a bit unique to our international students, as I mentioned, of course, 99.999% of the time, unless you're one of those special visa types that either your work authorization is your status or such as H-1B or other cases like that, you're going to have to apply for work authorization. So for F1s, I'm sure as most of you know, that's going to be your OPT and your CPT. CPT is primarily for internships, and it's primarily while you are still actively taking classes. And the goal is that the internship is part of your curriculum. I'm not going to spend too much time on CPT, but keep that in mind. And then the other way, of course, is OPT, which is for your post-graduation work authorization. This is where you're going to be pursuing your full-time jobs and things like that. So work authorization is almost always step one for our international students, because without it, you can't work legally. And you definitely can't get paid legally.
And we want you to get paid.
Yes, especially legally. You get caught getting paid illegally, it's not good.
It's not a good look for anybody.
Exactly. So like I mentioned, the work authorization can come in the form of OPT or other ways. Like I said, it all depends on this. And then in the case of our OPT students, of course, the work must be related to your major. So if you need extra cash or need just something to keep your OPT authorization and not run out of unemployment days, unfortunately for international students on F1 status, you can't like take a temporary job at McDonald's or work as an Uber driver or something like that to maintain your status.
Right.
The extra challenge you all have is that all the work you do has to be related to your major.
Right. And I would say from the coaching aspect, especially when we're dealing with like career fairs and conversations about, am I authorized to work in the US? If what you are currently looking for is CPT, right? It is already built into you being here and part of your study, then the answer is yes, right? Because that is the portion of what we're authorized to do with that. OPT is where we kind of have to shift again the conversation, because then we do have to go through the process of applying first and getting granting that yes. But ideally that yes for CPT is one of those things where I don't want you to feel like that's a trick question. CPT is a yes, okay? Okay.
Yeah, and if you're ever unsure about you're always welcome to visit our office.
Yes.
Walk in, send an email, schedule an appointment.
Yes.
Anything like that.
And the employers are still learning, so be gracious, because sometimes they ask because they have to, right? But they also don't know where you are in your process. So that's where you also have to be able to know when to say yes and when to say no based on where you are in that process.
And you're always welcome to direct employers to the visa office as well, because sometimes they see F1 or like I'm an international student, they get a little scared.
Right.
They're like, oh, well, I don't know how to hire someone. Like, do I have to sponsor a visa?
Right.
And the answer is no. When you're on your F1 and you're on a PT, the visa sponsorship's already taken care of.
Right.
The ODU continues to sponsor your visa once you graduate and get on a PT.
So yeah, they can answer the complexities or, how limited you would be.
Happy to talk to employers, done it before. I think I did some sort of education session for employers a while back.
Yeah.
So always happy to chat. Sure about anything related to your work authorization. Additionally, another challenge, of course, like I said, that our international students uniquely face is, of course, in the case of CPT, has to be approved by the visa office. So you have to get our approval as like the DSO, which is designated school official. That means we're the people at your university who are authorized to do visa paperwork for you. There's about 8 or 9 of us in total at ODU, of which there's in the visa office we have 4, and I'll show them later. And then the extra challenge in the case of OPT is that not only do you have to get approval from the DSO to recommend your OPT, but then you have to apply with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and they have to also approve your OPT, and that can take 3 to 4 months, and it's also not free.
Right.
So just additional challenges to keep in mind. And then one of the other things for international students, except under special circumstances such as economic hardship and special student relief, which I'm not going to get into, full-time jobs for international students are largely only available for the post-graduation OPT time because economic hardship is a really hard thing to demonstrate that you qualify for and could work for a full-time job while you're in classes still. So, the first thing is, of course, finding a job related to your major. And of course, CCLD is always happy to help out with that. My tongue twisted. But they're always happy to help out. They're always resource number 1 on campus with helping you kind of tweak your resume so that you're getting picked up on all the things and you're properly showing yourself off to people. Because again, like she mentioned, you want to stand out. You don't want to be like, oh, well, I did this course, so I should get the job.
Right.
Now you want to show that you did the course, but also did the internship, did this, that, volunteered, and whatnot.
Yep.
So always use CCLD. They're fantastic. And go to their career fairs that they do.
October 30th.
Oh, yes. I'll be there. So if you go to the career fair and your employer's like, well, you're an international student, how am I supposed to hire you? Send them to me.
Right.
Because I'll be there.
We'll stick Jared on him. We're like, booth number 2, we need to find you. Okay?
I'll be like, don't worry. Don't be scared of hiring an international student. You can do it, and it requires almost no work at all for you.
Right. And a lot of that is really solved with just conversations and just helping break their misinformation and misunderstanding what the process is.
Yes, because again, I'm sounding like a broken record, but I know a lot of employers don't realize this, that when they hire you as an F1 on OPT, they do not have to sponsor anything for you.
Right.
They just have to do the normal I-9 process that they do for any employer.
Right. And then from just even approach at something like a career fair, we don't want to lead with the sponsorship conversations, especially for employers who are not as knowledgeable of these steps, these pieces, and kind of how complex it could be. Okay. So we don't want to scare them from jump and say, hey, I'm going to need you to sponsor me, when I'm done. They may not be ready for that conversation, and they also may not know your value or your worth as a candidate for that role yet. Okay. So really, from a coaching standpoint, you got to invest the time to prove that you are the best fit before we can start having some of those sponsorship conversations. Okay.
The most they'll ever have to do while you're for one, give you a job offer later.
Yes.
And for 2, sign off on once you're on STEM OPT, because I believe everyone here is STEM OPT eligible. For your 2 years of OPT that you get if you're a qualifying STEM major beyond your first year of OPT, your employer does have to sign off on the form that's called the I-90. So that, other than that, that's the most they ever have to do. And
Still an
that's
extra
just,
piece of paper.
that's just, you write your job duties down and then they sign off and say, yep, this is what they're doing. And then we just keep it on file. And if USCIS or SEVP ever asks for it, we provide it. Additionally, of course, the other thing that you already hammered on really well was knowing your worth and putting yourself out there, networking with people. I'll get into it on OPT as well, but like the volunteering that she mentioned was very valuable. You can do that while you're on your OPT. You can do that to help you get your foot in the door, volunteer with the professor you want to research under, or volunteering through an unpaid internship, things like that. Those are all available to you and they're vital for growing your network. And potentially, I've seen several students who start out as an unpaid volunteer, either at ODU or at other employers abroad, and then they end up getting offered positions. So don't limit yourself. Of course, we all want to get paid and we want to get money, but don't limit yourself that, oh, I don't want to do this because it's not paid. Of course, if you get a paid opportunity, take it. But like sometimes you have to start out. In the case of F1s, especially with what you are allowed to do and not allowed to do, sometimes you do volunteer in order to maintain your work authorization. And I'll get into that a little more. And then also know where to look. Of course, again, CCLD, always a valuable resource, but also, be sure to look around on like various job boards and stuff that are curated towards your area of study. Like I said, especially important for international students because the only work you can do when you're on your OPT or CP is stuff that's directly related to your major. So just be sure to check out those areas, talk to your department, talk to your network about, hey, what are some good places that you know that employers who are wanting to hire people who major in computer science, where are they posting their jobs? Where can I find information about their job? So getting into OPT itself, because this is the most complicated thing, CPT is not overly complicated. And like I said, normally limited to just internships. CPT only has to be approved by the visa office and potentially you just have to be enrolled in a class, whether it's a class or a department or the 0 credit internship class that you don't pay tuition on that's offered through the Monarch Internship and Cooperative Office. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but on OPT, which is the more complicated version, there's several steps and several things you need to keep in mind. So of course, the most important thing for OPT is once you get it approved, the job that you do on your OPT must be related to your major. It is technically, of course, we're going to help you out to navigate this, but it is technically to have a job that's not related to your major is a violation of your status and a violation of your OPT and could jeopardize your status, especially if USCIS finds that you're working an unauthorized job. So please only do your employment that's related to your major and report all your employment to us so we can properly maintain your record so that USCIS or SEVP never have to ask questions.
Right. And if you're not sure how it ties in or if it, like we said on the surface, doesn't make sense, talk to us. We can help you understand the connection points, even if they're not always obvious.
Exactly. And our office is also willing to write letters as well. We've written letters in the past for like someone has a weird title and then we're like, well, how does that relate to computer science or whatever?
And that's why I said don't necessarily get stuck on the title because that may not be reflective of what you're actually doing.
Exactly. Additionally, like I mentioned, OPT job require a job you do on OPT can be paid or unpaid, part-time or volunteer or full-time, but the working hours must be at least 20 hours a week in order to stop your unemployment countdown. Because I'm sure as many of you already know, when you're on OPT, you only have 90 days of unemployment. And then after that, your visa status can potentially be closed out and you could have your OPT authorization removed. But that's okay. Any work that you do, including unpaid positions, that's why I'm saying don't limit yourself, because again, the unpaid position can turn into a paid position, but it can also, which is really important, it can stop the unemployment clock so that you don't have to worry about that unemployment. Oh my gosh, I have 3 months to find a job, otherwise I'm out of my visa status. If you're doing like a 25-hour-a-week volunteer opportunity while continuing, of course, to look for a full-time job, your status will be preserved and you won't have any issues there. We also often reach out. So if we see that you're running out of unemployment days or anything like that, we'll reach out to you, let you know.
Check your emails.
But yes, please,
Please.
check emails. But yeah, and like I said, it can be part-time. The way USCIS and visa and in terms of OPT, part-time and full-time are defined is different from the way most people define full-time, part-time.
Right.
For OPT purposes, full-time just means at least 20 hours or more. So as long as you're working at least 20 hours per week, you're getting full-time. So if you get a job offer for 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week, anything like that, even though in the traditional sense, that's not full-time. In terms of OPT, is full-time. I know it's weird, doesn't make sense. I don't really know why that's the rule, but it's nice that it is a rule because it makes it easier when you're doing these unpaid part-time internships like that.
Right.
Additionally, you must notify the visa office ahead of the start date of the, preferably ahead of the start date with your employer. Sometimes we get it, sometimes you forget to do your employment updates and things like that. That's okay. We can backdate the information. But generally, we strongly encourage you that as soon as you get the job offer, which I'm hoping they're offering you before your start date.
They should. It's better business practice.
Then let us know. Do our employer update for our OPT employer update forum that's on the International Student Portal. Send us an email, anything that you can to let us know. Other things to keep in mind, of course, is that you must possess an EAD card before you start any work. That EAD card is the little card. It kind of looks like a red driver's license almost that you get once your OPT is approved. Now, how to get an EAD card is kind of a drawn out or potentially expensive process. To make it less expensive, you should apply for OPT earlier. But you can only apply for OPT no sooner than 90 days before your graduation date. So PhDs, it's a little different if you're ABD. So if you're a PhD and want to start working before graduation, let us know. But for master's and bachelor students, you can only apply for OPT starting within 90 days of your graduation date. So how to get that EAD card? Well, you're going to do what's called an I-765, which is a general work authorization application that USCIS has. And there are a million different reasons you can fill out an I-765 for a million different visa types. For you all, for F1s, you're going to be under the OPT eligibility category. So you'll always pick C3B once you get to that point. I'm not going to go too far into that detail. Come to an open workshop to get the full story on that. But yeah, you're going to do an I-765 where you're going to upload a bunch of documents, including your passport and your I-94 and whatnot. And you have to upload a special I-20 that you can only get from the visa office through an OPT request. And that is your OPT I-20. So before you're submitting your I-765 to USCIS, you're first requesting OPT through our office. We'll review it. If everything looks good, we issue an OPT I-20 with the recommendation dates. The start date of your OPT can only be within 60 days of your graduation date. I know one more date limit to remember, but you cannot start your OPT no sooner than the day after graduation and no later than 60 days after graduation. Any date from that is fair game. So I don't know if we have any fall 2025 graduates, but I believe your end dates are December 13th off the top of my head. So you can start your OPT as early as December 14th, or you can wait to as late as February 12th. We'll never recommend a date. The system won't even let us recommend a date beyond 60 days. So don't worry if you accidentally pick the 61st day. We'll let you know, hey, we can't actually do that date, so I moved it a day earlier. Then you submit the I-765 with the OPT I-20 to USCIS. The filing fee is $470, and the processing time is 3 to 4 months. So that's why I say, as soon as you hit the 90 days before graduation, start thinking about your application, start filling it out so that we can issue your I-20 sooner so that you are more likely to get the OPT start date.
Right. And squirrel that $400 away so you have it ready and available to you.
Yes. Now, I understand we get busy sometimes, or you suddenly realize, oh, I can graduate this semester, something like that. We understand sometimes that comes up. So you may not apply, like you might not think about applying for OPT until November or December. Please try to avoid that if you can, because you're probably not going to get the start date you want. But if that does happen, there is premium processing as well, where USCIS guarantees a response that is emphasis on response, not necessarily approval. They guarantee a response to your OPT application within 30 business days, or about a month and a half. But the catch to that is that the premium processing fee is $1,650 on top of the $470 that you're paying. So
Yeah, I might have to
If-
squirrel some more money.
yeah, if you do that, and like my job offer is contingent, like I don't have a by January 5th or whatever, they're gonna rescind my offer, then I would recommend you do premium processing or at least consider it, but just know it's going to be about $2,000 in total for it. So just keep that in mind. That's why we're always saying this, plan ahead. Start thinking about applying for OPT at the beginning of your graduating semester so you can start getting the documents ready. Then once you hit 90 days, you submit your request to us. We issue the OPT I-20. Then you just proceed with submitting and you're good to go. So yeah, just keep all this in mind because I know it's a lot and you're always welcome to schedule an appointment with our office. Questions about these regulations, but it is a lot of stuff to navigate.
Yeah.
So, now that all that is to say that there are other options other than OPT if for whatever reason you have trouble finding a job, but you want to maintain your F1 status or things like that, or anything like that. One of those could be a change of visa status. So you could be like, okay, I can't find a permanent job on my OPT, but my employer is willing to sponsor an H-1B or an L-1 visa or anything like that. Just work with them and whatever attorneys or whoever they have to get you to that new visa type. Or if it's at ODU, you'll just come to our office again and we'll do the employer visa as well. But there's a million different reasons you can change a visa, or you could have a pending permanent residency application, all of that stuff. Just make sure you let us know that you're changing status so that we can properly close out your F1 and close out your OPT so that it does not jeopardize you in the future if you go to apply for any other immigration status. And then they see, wait, you had an H-1B approved in March, but your OPT was also still going on until June. So how were you in F1 doing OPT, but also in H-1B at the same time? Make sure you're updating us so we can close. One thing I also strongly recommend is while OPT is a great thing and a useful tool, and of course we want you to stay in the US and share all your wonderful things and your new cool job that you got fresh out of graduation at ODU. I also put a lot of emphasis on try looking abroad as well. There are several students who we've had who have gotten wonderful jobs. There's one student that just graduated last May that she might go to example. She had started her OPT, but then she ended up getting a job offer in Singapore.
Nice.
And now she's doing great. She's a professor at some big university in Singapore now. So don't just limit yourself to the US because you've got a OPT. And again, now if you do end up paying the fee for OPT and then you find a job elsewhere, of course, you're not going to get a refund for that fee. But I always say, don't just limit yourself to the US because there's all sorts of things to consider. One thing you can also do is that if you are having trouble finding a job and you're like, well, I've considered, starting a new degree program. Say you just finished your master's or your bachelor's, you had trouble finding a job and you want to start a PhD program or something like that. You can do that as well. Either reach out to us, you can change your level if it's at ODU, or if it's a new university that's offering you a PhD program, we can facilitate a transfer and things like that. So there are plenty of options outside of OPT. So don't feel like OPT is the end all be all. And if you don't successfully find a job on OPT, done. It's not the case. And we're always happy to help you out with navigating some of these changes. And then a few other things. I realize I'm running short on time. To keep in mind, there are some special resources, of course, that the visa office still has that you can always use. Of course, come to our OPT workshops. We just sent an updating reminder to Blaine. I believe it has a link to an OPT workshop in it. So if you haven't already, you can RSVP for one. Our next one is October 20th. Additionally, you can always visit the ODU Visa website. We've got general FAQs. We've got pages dedicated to OPT, CPT, things like that. So if you have any questions, you can check out there, or you can schedule an appointment with your advisor. And then there's also the International Student Portal, spring, where once you go to submit your request for your OPT, I-20 or CPT, anything like that, you can log on there and do that. And then there's also other resources online, such as Department of Homeland Security has a website setting safe. They've got a lot of basic questions about OPT and F1 status. That. And just in case if you didn't know already who your advisor is, we do have advisor assignments in the visa office, but the lines aren't that like solid. So if you really don't like me, I will forgive you for scheduling an appointment with a lay surgeon.
They all wear multiple hats.
Exactly. But me, there's the people with last names N to Z and also all J1 visa students. And then there's our director Casey, who is the advisor for A last name. And then there's Alyssa, the advisor for B last, visa and last names. And yeah, I'm gonna pass it back.
All right, perfect. So like Jared said, one, have a backup plan, right? Especially situation. Sometimes just having an exit strategy that's still going to work out for you is a good option, right? Stay informed and stay connected to visa, okay? There's only so many oopses we can have, okay, before it starts to be a bigger oops and a bigger. So please stay in touch with visa. The other part of it, as we said, right, is you gotta make sure that you are doing all the practical steps outside of just networking and figure out where you wanna go and where you wanna work for. Every student who wants a job has to do a resume. And they also have to start branding themselves as a professional. That's just standard part of this process, okay? So, for most resumes, right, depending on where you are in the generation of resume writing, there used to be a version that was very pretty, it was colorful, it was visually appealing. You could pick it up out of the stack and be like, oh, I like these colors and these designs. However, because of AI, right, and application tracking systems, you're coming edits. Right, a couple of you. So an application tracking system is one of the new technologies that have been incorporated into this process. An application tracking system is more often than not going to be the first set of eyes looking at your app. Okay, so when you are filling out online applications, there's the back end, right? Our computer people, right? The whole point of it is for it to filter out applicants based on what information it's going to be looking for. Okay, so we've had to shift from the visually appealing document to a clean, concise, very content-specific document, okay? Because it is going to be keyword coded to find certain criteria. So, the easier it is for it to scan, the better you will be moved to those filtered files and yes to me, okay? So, making sure that your formatting is clear and concise, you are highlighting your top achievements. You are focusing on those specific skills and competencies, okay? Not just the fact that you completed the task, but I want to know you did it well. I want to know how many people you helped. I want to know how much money you worked with. I want to know what percentage increase. Okay, so make sure you're quantifying details as much as possible. And then action verbs. Okay, do not start statements with I can do this or I learned how to do this. That is you. You know it's you. Okay, hammer in on those skills by starting off with really strong descriptive action verbs. Okay. And then typically a lot of the fields and industry that you all are interested in, you will want a CV and a resume. Who can tell me the difference?
So CV is where you elaborate yourself from, and if you want to put, you can start from either ABCD to this is where I then college and what I've done in college. Resume is more or less like a, let's say CV is your movie and resume is your trade.
So, and what I like to reference is your CV is going to be essentially the full story of your professional development, right? as in-depth as you can make it. There's not going to be a page limit, right? It's going to be the full breadth and depth story of who you are professionally. Now, does every industry want a multiple page document of who you are? Right? Most of our STEM fields would appreciate that, but it also depends on where you're trying to go in the industry. Research, I need your CV. Faculty, I need your CV. If you want to be in charge of multitude of people, money, and resources, I need your CV. I need that full confidence that you can do work and perform well at that level of work. Okay? Most of our entry level, mid-level opportunities, so think about the ones that you're just probably going to get started in, your foot in the door in, they're going to want a basic 2-page, typically, resume. The focus is relevant information, okay? So you're going to take that lovely CV where you have 10 plus pages or so of information, and you're going to then kind of pick and pull and pick and choose what is relevant to this employer and this specific opportunity, okay? And we're going to narrow it down to the most important highlights of who you are as it relates to what they need. Okay, so for a CV, most of you at some point in your career are going to develop a CV, and for some of you, this is standard information, as you said. But I get a lot of questions of, well, what can go on my CV? Really? There's a lot of options, as you can see, right? So outside of the basic standard 2-page resume information, which covers your education, your class titles, gonna go over some basic information about experiences you've gained, some of your extracurriculars. This is where we start really deep diving into what are we learning, what can we do, right? So if you have lab and research experience, if you have teaching experience, if you have already created publications, if you are doing peer-reviewed journals, if you are doing grant writing, conference presentations, all of that stuff counts to help you stand out, okay? And a lot of these things that you already come with, and you're like, I did this 12 years ago, 4 years ago. This is what your domestic counterparts, I'm just trying to get them to do as a baseline, okay? So again, if you already come with some of this stuff, you're already ahead of the game, and these are going to be the things that I need you to brag and try that you come with that they don't, okay? All right, building a strong personal brand. So outside of making sure that you have your resume, your letters, you're figuring out who your network of professionals and connection points are going to be, you still have to sell yourself as a business. Okay? Every person at this point needs to be able to showcase who you are as a professional. Now, you can do that on LinkedIn. You can do that through a portfolio. You can create your own website. However you do it is completely up to you. But please know outside of the transactional documents you have to share, employers are going to go online and they want to see your digital footprint, okay? Being part of the world of social media and internet is still part of the expectation, but what you put out there and how you market yourself is really where they're going to start asking questions and looking at, okay? So we encourage you to include your LinkedIn, your websites, right, your portfolio links as part of the information that you're going to share with them so they can work, right? Because even with a CV or even with a resume, I'm only going to know so much about who you are as a person that I'm considering hiring, okay? So that online platform, the way that you're presenting and promoting yourself professionally on your online platforms, your social media accounts, just know that it is currently built into the process, right? And employers are going to do their homework and try and learn more about it. Now, there are only very few instances in which not having a digital footprint would be acceptable. And I don't know if many of you in the room that would qualify, okay? So keep in mind, you may not love technology, you may not want to be a part of the online digital community, and I understand that for students. However, they're going to ask more questions of why can't I find you online? When they start dating, okay? You don't want that to be like, what are you hiding? What kind of secrets are out there about you, right? We don't want that to be the case. We want them to be able to find you. And what they find about you should be the impressive highlights. Look at all the things I'm involved in. Look at all the things that I'm developing. Look at who I am. Okay? All right. So where to start? Now, hopefully many of you are familiar with Handshake. Is it the end all be all tool? No. Right? Do I love Handshake? I love some movies, but it's fun called that, right? You have a love-hate relationship. But I am typically going to have you start with Handshake. You pay for it one. It is a useful tool too, okay? And ideally, a lot of the employers that are connected to Handshake recognize that they're hiring college level talent. Okay? They're not looking for executives. They're not looking for CEOs. They're looking for people that can continue to train and develop. You are in that pool of candidates, okay? So they are looking for talent like what you bring. As we said, October 30th, Career Fair Day. I'm going to have at least 150 employers across industries available for you to meet face to face. We're going to bypass that application tracking system. We're going to bypass that online application process for them. And we're going to go live first. Hi, sir, how are you? What kind of opportunities do you have? I'm an engineering major. So I want to do, right? And now we have that human connection, which is where we can start. Right? Because then you can talk about how amazing you are and what you really have to offer in live real time. Okay? Now, outside of the career fair, you will often see in the web center and around campus random tables and employers just sitting there hanging out. Okay? Should we just keep walking by and oh, they're not my employer. I don't know if they are. I don't have anything to do with them. We'll keep going. Those employers are here not only for recruitment opportunities, but for you to practice network. For you to get comfortable talking about who you are, for you to practice introducing yourself, for you to ask somebody who already has a job doing a professional field, right? That you may like, hey, I need to ask, because I'm not there yet, but you are, so let me get some information. Okay, so at the very least, practice an information guide with every employer we put in front of you. Okay? And then Interstride. Our lovely Hydra can tell you way more about Interstride, right? That was our office's compromise outside our lovely relationship handshake, right? And some of the confusion with employers and them trying to understand work authorization and visa status and what does that mean and can I hire you and when can I hire you and how much do I have to pay for reports, right? Interstride was our partnership that said, hey, there are already employers who know what that means. There are already employers who understand that process. There are employers who already hired people from international size. We're going to give you a tool that works within collaboration with Handshake that's going to be kind of your own job work, but work together. Okay, don't just take one or the other. Use all opportunities for searching and connections as you. Okay? And then LinkedIn, across the board, it doesn't matter if you're international student, domestic student or not, LinkedIn is the employer's preferred platform. Okay? For networking, for marketing, for sharing job opportunities, for learning more about them, for posting information, LinkedIn is their current preference. Okay? You don't have to love it, but they love it. So we all love what they love right now. Okay? We're going to get in LinkedIn, we're going to learn LinkedIn, we're going to use LinkedIn because that's what they use. Okay? So, please see us if you haven't been to CCLD. We are in West Center above Starbucks, so get your coffee, your tea, your snacks, come see us. Okay, we are open like most apartments, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. We have various ways you can meet with us. In person, you can drop in, you can schedule an appointment, you can email us, you can just come hang out in our space if you want. Okay? But come see us early and often. Please do not wait till that 90 days before graduation. Please don't wait until your deadline is coming up to say, hey, I had a job last week. I think we should time. Okay? Hey, more time. Process that with you. And there's way more staff than just us. Okay? Now, other sites that typically we are using in our coaching space to help all students figure out those job market trends. What do I say? How do I say it? What information is out there? ONET, Career Livestock, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics are all sister sites from the U.S. Department of Labor. Okay? So what are current job opportunities? How much can you make? Where are these jobs located? What kind of education and training do you need to have? Right? Is this job going to even be obsolete or is it going to grow in the next few years? All that information is going to be shared with you within that space. Okay? If you're here and you're like, hey, this is my major and I don't love it and I'm ready to do something else, there's also that's it. That will help you explore opportunities based on your major and what that looks like. Okay? Again, if we're confused of opportunities that we have, does this make sense for my major? Is this even an industry I'm allowed to touch? So I don't get disqualified. Please use these sites. They will tell you that information. And then you bring that over information during the student say, no, but it says right here that this qualifies. Okay, this is the work. It may not have the title, but this is the work. Hand match. Okay, so that helps me with some of those confusion questions of, does it even make sense? Is it even relatable to my view? That information will show you it doesn't. Okay? All right, yeah. Well, that's me. All right, that's everything we have for you. Please come see us. If you're going to be making appointments, you're probably going to see either myself. We also have a new assistant director, her name is Samantha. You will meet her shortly. And then we also have our lovely graduate assistants, Marcus, Dyra, and Gavin. So one of us will be your support team if you come see us. All right, any questions? The number of your students from the post with graduation done.
Limited to just 20 hours of CPT per, like a 20-hour week of our internship. During the summer, you can do a full-time internship, so it could be 40 hours of an internship. And during your grad weeks, you can do a full-time 40 hours. One thing I will say to keep in mind is that keep track of the amount of times you can do. So part-time CPT, no limit for that. Full-time CPT, if you use greater than 364 days, I'm seeing wait for eligible for development, you know. No, make it imprint. 364 days is really not at the last one.
Oh,
You have to listen. Yeah.
okay.
Next. The 5 So if you have an internship for the fall and they're like, you're still wondering, we want you to stay on with us for a few more months, that's technically apply again with the spring and re-register brilliant course again for the spring. And then we'll just extend the authorization on that.
Any questions?
You know what I mean? Always these.
Can't do that.
The deans, we think you don't know anything about their changes to based on what we see and the language they use, are really capped subject H-1Bs, which would be private employers who go through the immigration lottery that's in April and they're awarded the H-1B. We think that's what they're targeting based on the police information, things like that. For now, ODU sponsored H-1Bs because we're an institution in most universities, research laboratories and like that. Not all like non-government ones, things like the Research Foundation, ODU, things like that, nonprofit. We're all Catholic saints, so we file those forever, and it doesn't seem like any quite social. The other thing to keep in mind is that thing that one day, if they ever do the hospitality, it is for only for H-1000. So if you're outside, you get offered an H sponsorship, good if you're in. That's kind of an apply. People who are already in US ones, other visa status, and switching to H, that's not fun.
I know, that's what I'm going to go, wages.
All age group. So like they have to pay us the salary of the position to pay a certain amount, otherwise you're gonna be. Oh, well, right now, nothing's changed. We still use the same. Yeah. Yeah, they haven't released anything official saying we're saying this going on. Level 1 wage in the field of chemistry must pay 70,000 levels, we must pay 85. The individual wage levels for every single job classification are funded. It's the same, I guess for our H's, it's based on the levels and the classifications of ONETs, and there's a unique A-band level for every single classification in ONET.
That's it, that.
Thousands of that. And right now, that's, right, right now it's still.
And again, should in after they can say we're gonna change it tomorrow. Legally, they just change it. There are so many cogs in that wheel that the whole system would stop if they just changed it tomorrow, okay? Like most things, we have to kind of let what's currently in place finish out before any actual adjustments can then be made and started budget, okay? So where we are right now, get it right. Y'all are okay in this one. Okay?
Yes, what are the kind of relevant in most cases, they can't just change policy overnight and snap, it's done. Usually, like for school stuff we've seen lately, they have to put it up for at least 60-day comment period, which means they can't change. And even then, and they have to then take the time to properly address every comment. When it just went out, it just ended its comment. That's the comment, so they have to individually acknowledge what someone from. Right, so if there's ever a comment anonymous, so. The other thing I'll mention is that there's also first, one of the stuff they try to do. You can't just make this swap change, so like. Oh, we're getting rid of OPT or, oh, H1B's gonna have to pay $100,000. It's usually gotta go to court. It can usually have to go to court and then that can take a year plus, so until the court, because it doesn't have any court.
Yeah, they're gonna be solved practice, they're gonna try and push this out, we're gonna do it, we're gonna, right, they're gonna do as much as we can for that. Look, and all. Okay,
Always check your email from these folks as well, they're always sending you updates about any.
that is really huge, the information is so much, but. Like, everybody they try to keep each and everything, and don't disclose any of the rumors outside, right? Don't wanna get to know any information, and want to know if it is genuine enough, please come to the resource person, talk to the advisors and then the peer. And one of the biggest things about being in the academic community, is none of us all have been certain aspects, right? We are here to kind of be the middle makers of like, hey, that's politics, these are students, right? This is something different. And so this is kind of a smaller protected bubble where we can say, hey, the institution also had, right? Outside of what else is happening, the institution is here. So bring whatever you need to their attention and then we can work on all of your effect. Okay. So much.
I know that it's probably first couple of information. Since I work for CSGS, number one, October 28 and 29, we have something called a resume refresh. Just in case you have a resume that is too old, that you're not sure how it is, or you want a new resume, you're more than welcome to step to CSGS. Myself, Sam, and a lot of others lovely people will be right there to help you with their resumes. And also for exciting students and domestic students, we have been working on backend with employers to make them more aware of situations around campus, including how to hire new talent, how to look for talent in new upcoming grads, and so on. And also, I'm not sure if people have noticed, but then recently, as CCLD, we are also partnering with office for the third time as a career fair to make sure the employers are informed about the various visa statuses and how they can apply various techniques to hire those people and so on. We are still in the process. We are not going to say that all the employers know of it, but I can guarantee that most of them do. So if you have not had luck previously with the job fair, please don't do so. Many people are getting informed day by day, so please try to come in, give it a shot. The one thing that is in your hand that you can do is keep trying. So please don't stop it. This applies for both domestic and international students. And if an employer feels that they do not know about it or they want to know more about it, we can direct them to visa office because we make sure that visa office always has a table with a friend of the chapter area. Just make sure that even the students and the people that are from the employer side have information that they need from the visa office. Please try to be there. I might not guarantee a job for you, but I can guarantee connections for you because I got hundreds of connections from just going to career fairs. So it helps one way or the other. Please don't do so. Go for resume fresh October 2029 if you want CSGS to send out a talent blog. We can also do that. Just let us know if you would like us to do that. Also, we hope you like this event and if you need any events further specific to a specific topic or covering any of these topics more in detail, or you want certain other topics to come up, we are more than happy to help, but just try to help us there. Thanks so much.
Also, I wanted to add something else, since we have domestic and international. Domestic students might have felt a bit like overboard a bit. Like, we just wanted to try to help both the students because based on computer science, we have most of international students, and we wanted both of them to have an advantage out of this. So it won't be like this kind of events. We have much more really interactive and good events. Just don't think that okay, this event didn't really give me much, but we do have much more events. Sorry about if you felt it is bored, but we just wanted to help all of them. So thank you for understanding and thank you so much for coming out, even if it's late. I'm pretty sure there are 30 people who registered but didn't show up. But I'm really thankful for the students who showed up. Thank you so much.
There will always be a recording, just in case any of your friends who are able to make it, will share the recording as well. Also, please feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to listen to you, and we are more than happy to connect all the events that you would like to have. We can't guarantee all, but with the budget available, we can guarantee and try to do the most we can. And thank you, Samantha, for helping us with this.
Yeah.
I think your page how you have this.
I was like, we know it's not the most exciting. But. Also, international students, if you need any of the advices, the data, advice, you want to grab them, you can.
As I was saying before winding up, we would like to invite Samantha here. We have a small sort of appreciation too, and we sincerely thank you for being here and
Oh.
Is anyone need to take a picture of the entire committee with the speakers by any chance, please?
Are you good for your rest? Because it's awesome.
Yeah, it's I don't have a meeting with them. It's
Aren't you doing career champions?
there is something like
What time?
one.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Coloring material.